Lebanon is a parliamentary democratic republic within the overall framework of confessionalism, a form of consociationalism in which the highest offices are proportionately reserved for representatives from certain religious communities. The constitution grants the people the right to change their government. However, from the mid-1970s until the parliamentary elections in 1992, civil war precluded the exercise of political rights. According to the constitution, direct elections must be held for the parliament every 4 years. The last parliamentary election was in 2009. The parliament, in turn, elects a president every 6 years to a single term. The president is not eligible for re-election. The last presidential election was in 2008. The president and parliament choose the prime minister. Political parties may be formed. Most are based on sectarian interests. Syria was charged by Arab League with disentangling the combatants and restoring calm from the time of the Second Lebanese Civil War until 2005, when the Lebanese revolted against the Syrian presence and caused the withdrawal of Syrian troops with the support of the international community. Israel occupied parts of Lebanon in 1978, then withdrew from all Lebanese territories in 2000, although they still occupy Shebaa Farms, an area disputed between Syria, Israel and Lebanon. 2008 saw a new twist to Lebanese politics when the Doha Agreement set a new trend where the opposition is allowed a veto power in the Lebanese Council of Ministers and confirmed religious confessionalism in the distribution of political power. Political development since 1943. Since the emergence of the post-1943 state and after the destruction of the Ottoman Caliphate, national policy has been determined largely by a relatively restricted group of traditional regional and sectarian leaders. The 1943 National Pact, an unwritten agreement that established the political foundations of modern Lebanon, allocated political power on an essentially confessional system based on the 1932 census. Seats in parliament were divided on a 6-to-5 ratio of Christians to Muslims, until 1990 when the ratio changed to half and half. Positions in the government bureaucracy are allocated on a similar basis. The pact also by custom allocated public offices along religious lines, with the top 3 positions in the ruling troika distributed as follows: the president, a Maronite Christian; the Speaker of the Parliament, a Shia Muslim; the Prime Minister, a Sunni Muslim. Efforts to alter or abolish the confessional system of allocating power have been at the center of Lebanese politics for decades. Those religious groups most favored by the 1943 formula sought to preserve it, while those who saw themselves at a disadvantage sought either to revise it after updating key demographic data or to abolish it entirely. Nonetheless, many of the provisions of the National Pact were codified in the 1989 Doha Agreement, perpetuating sectarianism as a key element of Lebanese political life. Although moderated somewhat under Tariff, the Constitution gives the President a strong and influential position. The President has the authority to promulgate laws passed by the Parliament, to issue supplementary regulations to ensure the execution of laws, and to negotiate and ratify treaties. The Parliament is elected by adult suffrage based on a system of majority or winner-take-all for the various confessional groups. There has been a recent effort to switch to proportional representation, which many argue will provide a more accurate assessment of the size of political groups and allow minorities to be heard. Most deputies do not represent political parties as they are known in the West, and rarely form Western-style groups in the Assembly. Political blocs are usually based on confessional and local interests or on personal family allegiance rather than on political affinities. The Parliament traditionally has played a significant role in financial affairs, since it has the responsibility for levying taxes and passing the budget. It also exercises political control over the cabinet through formal questioning of ministers on policy issues and by requesting a confidence debate. Lebanon's judicial system is based on the Napoleonic Code. Juries are not used in trials. The Lebanese court system has 3 levels: courts of first instance, courts of appeal, and the Court of Cassation. There also is a system of religious courts having jurisdiction over personal status matters within their own communities, for example, rules on such matters as marriage, divorce, and inheritance. Lebanese political institutions often play a secondary role to highly confessionalized personality-based politics. Powerful families also still play an independent role in mobilizing votes for both local and parliamentary elections. Nonetheless, a lively panoply of domestic political parties, some even predating independence, exists. The largest are all confessional-based. The Free Patriotic Movement, the Kayab Party, also known as the Falang Party, the National Bloc, National Liberal Party, Lebanese Forces and the Guardians of the Cedars each have their own base among Christians. Amal and Hezbollah are the main rivals for the organized Shia vote, and the PSP is the leading Druze party. While Shia and Druze parties command fierce loyalty to their leaderships, there is more factional infighting among many of the Christian parties. Sunni parties have not been the standard vehicle for launching political candidates, and tend to focus across Lebanon's borders on issues that are important to the community at large. Lebanon's Sunni parties include Hizb ut-Tahrir, Future Movement, Independent Nasserist Organization, the Al-Tawhid, and Ahbash. In addition to domestic parties, there are branches of pan-Arab secular parties that were active in the 1960s and throughout the period of civil war. There are differences both between and among Muslim and Christian parties regarding the role of religion in state affairs. There is a very high degree of political activism among religious leaders across the sectarian spectrum. The interplay for position and power among the religious, political, and party leaders and groups produces a political tapestry of extraordinary complexity. In the past, the system worked to produce a viable democracy. Events over the last decade and long-term demographic trends, however, have upset the delicate Muslim-Christian Druze balance and resulted in greater segregation across the social spectrum. Whether in political parties, places of residence, schools, media outlets, even workplaces, there is a lack of regular interaction across sectarian lines to facilitate the exchange of views and promote understanding. All factions have called for a reform of the political system. Some Christians favor political and administrative decentralization of the government, with separate Muslim and Christian sectors operating within the framework of a confederation. Muslims, for the most part, prefer a unified, central government with an enhanced share of power commensurate with their larger share of the population. The reforms of the Doha Agreement moved in this direction but have not been fully realized. Palestinian refugees, predominantly Sunni Muslims, whose numbers are estimated at between 160,000 to 225,000, are not active on the domestic political scene. On September 3, 2004, the Lebanese parliament voted 96-29 to amend the constitution to extend President Abdel Malloud's 6-year term by another 3 years. The move was supported by Syria, which maintained a large military presence in Lebanon. Following the withdrawal of Syrian troops in April 2005, Lebanon held parliamentary elections in 4 rounds, from May 29 to June 19. The elections, the first for 33 years without the presence of Syrian military forces, were won by the Quadripartite Alliance, which was part of the Rafik Hariri Mata list, a coalition of several parties and organizations newly opposed to Syrian domination of Lebanese politics. In January 2015, the Economist Intelligence Unit released a report stating that Lebanon ranked the second in Middle East and 98th out of 167 countries worldwide for Democracy Index 2014. The report, which ranks countries according to election processes, pluralism, government functions, political participation, political cultures and fundamental freedoms. Executive branch. The President is elected by the Parliament for a 6-year term and cannot be re-elected again until 6 years have passed from the end of the first term. The Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister are appointed by the President in consultation with the Parliament. The President is required to be a Maronite, the Prime Minister a Sunni, and the Speaker of the Parliament a Shia. This confessional system is based on 1932 census data which showed the Maronite Christians as having a substantial majority of the population. The government of Lebanon continues to refuse to undertake a new census. Legislative branch. Lebanon's national legislature is called the Assembly of Representatives. Since the elections of 1992, The parliament has had 128 seats. The term was 4 years, but has recently been extended to 5. Seats in the parliament are confessionally distributed but elected by universal suffrage. Each religious community has an allotted number of seats in the parliament. They do not represent only their co-religionists, however. All candidates in a particular constituency, regardless of religious affiliation, must receive a plurality of the total vote, which includes followers of all confessions. The system was designed to minimize intersectarian competition and maximize cross-confessional cooperation. Candidates are opposed only by co-religionists, but must seek support from outside of their own faith in order to be elected. The opposition Konat Shaiwan Gathering, a group opposed to the former pro-Syrian government, has claimed that constituency boundaries have been drawn so as to allow many Shia Muslims to be elected from Shia-majority constituencies, while allocating many Christian members to Muslim-majority constituencies, forcing Christian politicians to represent Muslim interests. The following table sets out the confessional allocation of seats in the parliament before and after the Doha Agreement. Political parties and elections. Lebanon has numerous political parties, but they play a much less significant role in Lebanese politics than they do in most parliamentary democracies. Many of the parties are simply lists of candidates endorsed by a prominent national or local figure. Loose coalitions, usually organized locally, are formed for electoral purposes by negotiation among clan leaders and candidates representing various religious communities. Such coalitions usually exist only for the election, and rarely form a cohesive bloc in the parliament after the election. No single party has ever won more than 12.5% of the seats in the parliament, and no coalition of parties has won more than 35%. Especially outside of the major cities, elections tend to focus more on local and national issues, and it is not unusual for a party to join in electoral tickets in one constituency while aligned with a rival party, even an ideologically opposite party, in another constituency. Judicial branch. The judicial branches of 4 courts of cassation, the Constitutional Council rules on constitutionality of laws, the Supreme Council hears charges against the President and Prime Minister as needed. A system of military courts that also has jurisdiction over civilians for the crimes of espionage, treason, and other crimes that are considered to be security-related. Administrative divisions. Lebanon is divided in 6 governorates. Beirut, Mount Lebanon, North, Bekaa, South, Nabatai. Lebanon in the news, 1999 conflict, Farid Abad discusses rebuilding after Israeli attacks. June 1999 Lebanon will fight corruption by authority of law, 2002 fighting along the disputed Lebanese-Israeli border, 2002 Lebanese post-reconstruction efforts, 2005 assassination of former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. International Organization Participation, ABEDA, ACCT, AFESD, AL, AMF, ESCWA, FAO, G24, G77, IAEA, IBRD, ICAO, ICC, ICRM, IDA, IDB, IFAD, IFC, IFRCS, ILO, IMF, IMO, and MERSAT, ITUC, Intelsat, Interpol, IOC, ISO, ITU, NAM, OAS, OIC, PCA, UNCTAD, UNESCO, UNHCR, UNIDO, UNRWA, UPU, WCO, WFTU, WHO, WIPO, WMO, WTO. Notes. External links, Lebanon Official Government Portal, Lebanon Government at DMOZ.